All right, we are now to our public comment section of the agenda. And the time is 2 minutes. First up is Bob Willoughby and then Chris Wood.
Especially my sunglasses. Okay, I got 2 minutes, right? Okay, there's no time to really talk about issues because the issue has become y'all. This is what the issue is. The new school board is great, and this is what I want kids to learn in school, so that when they get up, they know how to elect, when they get older, how to elect candidates that don't reduce the time or give them 3 minutes regardless. That's what the school board does. No matter how many people there, the school board gives 3 minutes. Also, this new one that took over, which I love, damn, I said it before. They're going out in public and holding meetings. I watched that guy take questions at one of the deals over at Pascal High School. 3 hours. Even some people, he answered twice. This is a volunteer. And he stayed there and he took everybody's question. And you know what? If my council member was to do that, I wouldn't know how to act. No, that's what we need in school. So this is a normal, not a high, this is a normal thing. It's not. Tim, you're not a Republican. Republicans stand for the Constitution. When you cut this down from 2 meetings a month to one, you took away our right to speak at one time. Doing this is another thing. All I care about now is open this up 3 minutes and give the people what they deserve first. Put them first, and you're not doing it. It's not a Republican. Now, Lisa or Simmons is hitting you about that, but she's got her own flaws. She's not a Democrat either. She won't even go after Phil Soares that's got corruption over there. And she's a Democrat, and she won't vote for a Republican. That should be prime game, and she won't do it. So she's no better either. So when it comes to election time, I want better choices. The best way to get them is education in our school. Teach these kids to start vetting these candidates like you would hiring them for a job. If they don't answer questions, you don't hire them. If they lie, you don't hire them. And if they take away your right to speak in your time like this, you don't hire them. Put 3 minutes back regardless. Then you'll be on the right track and you'll be a Republican. Otherwise, you're not a Republican. Thank you, Tim. Have a good day.
Thank you. Quiet in the audience. Next up is Chris Wood, then Reed Bills.
I'm Chris Wood from Parker County. The current Tarrant County jail intake process can turn a misdemeanor into a long, destabilizing experience, especially for someone with a mental health condition. 6 years ago, I was arrested in Alabama for a misdemeanor traffic violation. I was processed quickly, held for several hours, and let go the same day on a signature release until my court date. 5 years ago in Tarrant County, I left home without taking my psychiatric medication. A short time later, partly because I had not taken my medication, I was arrested on a misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge. During booking, I explained I had forgotten to take my medication. Instead of receiving a way to obtain it or replacement medication, I was processed without it. The booking questions were lengthy and difficult for me to handle in that condition, which increased my agitation. I was placed on a personal recognizance bond that required transfer to the downtown jail. When I arrived, I declined a TB test because I have difficulty with needles. Because of this refusal, I was placed all alone in a cement cell with no way to track time, no way to get comfortable or warm, and I started to feel suicidal. I'm sharing this because it shows how a misdemeanor can become harmful when intake procedures do not appropriately match mental health needs. Please expand cite and release for misdemeanor cases. Reduce unnecessary PR bond transfers. This would decrease the number of people entering jail, ease strain on resources, and lower the risk that vulnerable people experience dangerous conditions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Bills, you have 1 minute and 12 seconds. Following Ms. Bills is Base Mego.
There have been 4 deaths since the last court meeting, with jail deaths with little to no information about the cause. It is long past time for our sheriff to be held accountable. Releasing dying inmates from custody in order to circumvent the Sandra Bland Act is not the solution.
Thank you. Is Base Mego present?
Here.
Following Mr. Mego is Bishop Kirkland.
Hi, I'm Base Mego. Carl Avery McCrae, dead June 16th, 2026. Cause of death not known. James Kent Johnson, dead June 18th, 2026. Cause of death not known. Mac L. Greer, dead June 17th, 2026. He died from fatal head injuries in the jail. No investigation. Victor Runnels, dead June 25th, 2026. He died while he was handcuffed to his bed. These human beings were relatively young, all younger than me, all dead since this previous meeting here. 4 dead in the last month. Something's not right. The death rate, from when I last read, is 4 times what the national average is in jails. The Commissioner's Court, you're not doing your job. You're offloading your responsibility. You don't want to do your job. You're offloading it to JPS. And JPS is taking the heat for it. And in their last meeting at JPS, they don't like that heat. Thank you very much.
Following Bishop Kirkland, we have Ambika Sharma.
Judge, Commissioners, Judge O'Hara, you were successful in diminishing our voice as citizens and stakeholders. The sheriff decided to make a cameo in-person appearance, probably late April or May, whatever meeting that was. He talked about how many rounds the staff conducted and how well our jail is operated, which was some manure. Commissioner Ramirez, you came back the following meeting talking about they passed a test or some inspection. What you failed to tell us is that they only met the bare minimum requirements. My question to you, if things are so great, how in the whole fudge does people keep dying in that jail? The sheriff says it because the people have health issues. I have health issues. I have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, I'm diabetic, I'm anemic, I've had 2 bouts with cancer, but I am still alive. I'm alive because I have not spent one single night in that death trap of a jail. Nothing is going to change about that jail until you people acknowledge we have a problem. And as long as these people keep dying supposedly at JPS, we know there'll be no real inspection at that jail. We need to tell the truth about where these people are dying. We need to hold people accountable. Let me explain something to you, Commissioner Ramirez. My village do not dislike cops. We dislike bad cops. We dislike cops that want to police us and not serve us. If there are bad Marines, if there are bad pastors, if there are bad citizens, there must be bad sheriffs. And all of the hoopla and all of the excitement, whenever they do one thing called doing their job, it's a big to-do. When are we gonna hold Sheriff Wilburn accountable for the 4 deaths in that jail?
Ambika Sharma is next. Quiet. Blaine Toole after Ms. Sharma.
Ambika Sharma, Precinct 1. I want to touch a few topics on the agenda. So let's start first with calendar. I would like to see 26 meetings for the next calendar year. When I have meetings with my employees, I try to offer them at least 2 minimum check-ins a month. We elected you and we pay for you. We are your employers, you are our employee. So as our employee and as your employer, I'm asking, and we are asking for 2 minimum meetings per month plus 2 for budget. In other words, 26 meetings is what I'm expecting to see. Number 2, TechShare. Manny, you're on the board of TechShare. Where are the financials? Why is it so difficult for me to find financials of TechShare? Supposedly it's a quasi-governmental owned entity that's a nonprofit. So Manny, my action item to you is by the end of this Friday, I need to see some kind of a statement from you as to why we should continue to invest in TechShare. Tom Wilder, the district clerk, is here asking for $1.6 million for TechShare. I don't understand what TechShare does and what's our ROI. So Manny, I'm looking for financial statements, I'm looking for ROI, and I need this by the end of the week. Next, $2.4 million undesignated funds that are being taken from the general fund. This is part of your appropriation budget. So I have 2 asks for you. One is when you vote on this consent agenda, please take that item out, and I want that $2.4 million to be voted on separately. And why are we taking money from general funds to give it to the sheriff? Does he not have enough money? Last I checked, he was loaded. So the $2.4 million, if you want to pay this, tell us who is it for. Is it for Rakana? And if yes, why did you end the contract with Rakana so abruptly? What did they do? So we want transparency on that. And lastly, budget. I know those are currently underway. As you look into the budget and decide on a deficit, another public debt, please look into the abatements that you continue to give out to entities like data centers and data warehouses. And do not tell me the data warehouses, that's the Freeport tax exemption by the state, because I expect you to send comments to the state.
Thank you. Next, we have Blaine Toole, and then Harriet Harrell.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blaine Toole, Precinct 1. John Barr, 36. James Johnson, 40. Carl McCrae, 40. Matt Greer, 46. Victor Reynolds, 61. The names of 5 people have died in the Tarrant County Jail this year, 4 in a 10-month span last month. 80 people have died either in custody or shortly after their spending time in Tarrant County Jail over the past decade, the last of which, Victor Reynolds, was released from jail and transferred to JPS 30 minutes before being pronounced dead, right after his handcuffs were taken off from the bed. Mr. Reynolds' death was not considered an in-custody death, and thus no investigation. Move along, nothing to see here. Then Matt Greer, who sustained a head injury while in custody. He was again released on a personal bond after being transferred to JPS. He was brain dead within a few hours before his family could see him, and they took him off life support. He passed away shortly after. Again, not an in-custody death, so no investigation. Move along. The family and friends of these men deserve our compassion and respect. They don't deserve to be stonewalled on a technicality. The lives of people essentially written off under extenuating circumstances. Ending up in jail doesn't mean you waive your right to fair and humane treatment. Being poor or sick shouldn't mean you risk a death sentence if you end up in county. But for too many, it has. Clearly, we need better oversight and accountability in regards to conditions and treatment in Tarrant County Jail. That means the sheriff's office need to be more forthcoming and transparent instead of trying to dodge accountability with paperwork. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Thank you.
Thank you. Following Ms. Harrell, we have Nan Terry.
Two things this morning. First, those of us who've been paying attention have learned this year that holding only one meeting a month is inefficient, dangerous, and disrespectful. There is no way to thoughtfully review more than 1,800 pages of agenda materials and make sound decisions. Consent agenda C1 today illustrates another consequence: the county's inability to pay bills and claims promptly because meetings are so infrequent. We again ask you to return to at least 2 meetings a month. Second, 4 deaths in the jail within 11 days should lead to one question: why? I'm not here to assign blame. I'm asking you to insist on a serious examination of the gaps and barriers that allow these deaths to occur. The interlocal agreement between the county and JPS expires September 30th. Before renewing it, require clear responsibilities and accountabilities that are missing today. Right now, the agreement contains no standards for how detention officers are to work with JPS. At a minimum, it should establish mandatory referral requirements, medical notification standards, officer training, and shared performance measures. No more wringing hands, no more excuses. Fulfill your responsibility as commissioners by requiring meaningful changes that reduce the deaths in our jail. Thank you.
Following Ms. Terry, we have Jane Collins.
You should be getting the Starving for Care zine from the Yale Investigative Labs in conjunction with KER's, prepared in conjunction with KERA. Have any of you spoken openly about the need to prevent deaths from dehydration or starvation? During the Georgia Baldwin investigation, WFAA reported on 3 deaths due to dehydration in our jail. Chief Eckert testified in a deposition about that case. All 3 inmates had 24/7 access to water, so it's not a concern as long as we provide water to them. After Kimberly Phillips' death, sheriff officers repeated, "We supply water in the cell." These are individuals with mental illnesses who decompensate or get worse with incarceration and don't know to drink. They are separated from their families and friends who would tell them to drink, but the people in charge of the building where they are detained don't think it's their responsibility to tell them to drink. Having made the first and second Starving for Care series a national publication, let's act differently. We don't need to be on the third. We want you to advocate for responsible care of detainees in our jail. Next topic, body cameras. Please include the issuance of mental health warrants in the policy for the body camera. Search and arrest warrants are there, but not mental health warrants. What about the death of Christopher Loyo? I was surprised last meeting when Judge O'Hare and Commissioner Matt Krause spoke about the glowing inspection reports from the Texas Commission on Jail Standards. I want to remind you, gentlemen, these are minimum standards. This sheriff violated the Sandra Bland Act. Over 20 deaths in custody in our county jail did not receive that required outside investigation. Traylon Wormley died of a fentanyl overdose after months in our jail. Clearly screams for outside investigation. What are you going to speak about that? Lastly, how can you give glowing accolades for minimal standards when you have 2 jailers charged with murder in our county jail waiting for trial?
Following Ms. Collins, we have Tara Maldonado Wilson.
I'm here to also speak on mass incarceration, and my shirt that I'm wearing shows that that's what I'm here for. And I think that part of the problem other people have addressed is when you stick all the people with mental health problems in the same facility as everyone else, it kind of overloads the prisons with things that people are not trained to take care of. And so I'm pretty sure that everybody that works, at the jail would be really happy if we could spend the money for more mental health facilities. And I'm remembering that maybe the sheriff had said that 70% of the people in the jail were there for mental health reasons. And I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of what I remember. So I think that that's a really important issue to deal with. And instead of I think that are we giving money to Green Bay for kind of extra space that we might need? And one of the things we should probably try to do is not be having so many people arrested. And I'm actually from Houston. I've been up here 4 years now, but I remember in Houston or Harris County when they decided not to hold people in jail just because they couldn't make bail. And I think something like that would help as well. So I think that that would be a good topic for the commissioners to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tara Maldonado Wilson and then E.J. Carrion.
Good morning, Commissioners Court. I am here to speak in support of the agenda item that will be submitting a grant applications for street use for a response to mental health crisis disorders, substance abuse disorders, and the amount of $3 million. That whole agenda item would be extremely positive for our county. However, it also has to be important in how we implement it. When I was back home in McLennan County, where I'm from, was part of an initiative that covered 12 counties that worked in intaking crisis, people that were experiencing crisis for whatever reason that is. And both McLennan County Sheriff and Waco PD were all in conjunction with that. And we all worked seamlessly to get these people intaked, seen, and placed properly where they needed to go. And I can't remember in the 4 years that I was associated with that program that anyone that was brought to our attention that needed crisis intervention help was ever even injured. And so my point to that is that there is a way that we can operate in this county to address this issue with integrity, with transparency, compassion, and empathy. It's just a matter is if we want to. The other part of this is that I've worked inside of the county jail as well down in McLennan County, and I know exactly what the intake process looks like. And also, in full transparency, I have been in jail twice since last November on non-criminal charges, with charges dropped because I pursued the justice system and prevailed victorious in it. So my point is that when you're in jail, depending on who your jailers are and what your entity is, you're really at the mercy of the compassion of those jailers to decide whether they want to give you water, whether they want to give you another styrofoam cup to get that water, and whether they want to let you out to use the restroom. So really, this is about a system that depends on other human beings to show empathy and compassion, and that's where we really need to be leaning in here and understanding that it's humans that can make the system better.
Thank you. All right, following Mr. Carrion, we have Lon Burnam.
Alrighty, so I saw that you guys made a handshake deal with Rakana Solutions for $1.1 million to find qualified jailers for the jail. And I know you guys don't like to actually do any work, so you like to contract it out. I'm actually here to also offer my hand to give you a handshake, and maybe you can offer a contract with me to replace all of you. Would you shake my hand? Will you shake the hands of Maggie Salinas, whose family has to deal with ICE taking her family here in Northside, Manny? Matt, will you shake my hand when Shema Al-Zubi, a principal at Fort Worth ISD for 10 years, no longer has a job because your Christian extremism shows up into our city? Judge Tim O'Hare, will you shake my hand to get you replaced as you can't even look these families in the eyes as you're up to having 4 deaths in 2 weeks? I believe all the community here, I asked the community, put out your hand. Put out your hand, community. Will you shake our hands? Because we know enough qualified people who are ready to be better than you. You need to step up and actually be leaders, because what you're doing right now is pathetic.
Following Mr. Burnham, we have William Winston.
Hello, all. Thank you for the opportunity to spend part of Bastille Day with you. Many of us here today participated in a rally in March at our equivalent of the Bastille, the Tarrant County Jail. The chants were, too many dead and free the innocent. Too many dead because you guys are not doing your job and you're negligent. Too many incarcerated because the judges just aren't coming to work and doing their job. And we have certain people at this table here to blame for that. I want to remind you of your political theater. You proudly posted the 10 Commandments across the way, but you failed to understand your role and responsibility for the 5th commandment. In case you have forgotten, because you certainly don't observe it, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. However you want to turn the phrase. You have failed the 80 people that have died in custody in the sheriff's period of time in office. You failed the families. You failed the community. I brought you 2 simple gifts today to remind you of your failure and the responses to this many good ideas that have been brought to this court. I don't see it right now, but I have a coffee cup to give to Tim, and it's really particularly telling. The first gift is a coffee mug for Tim. While Marie Antoinette said it out loud what she thought about the people, Tim is much more discreet. actions are to curtail free speech and the struggle for justice in our jails say much more than the courts about the court's position on our rights than spoken words. The words on the mugs say it all. Please make the stupid people shut up. Unfortunately, I think that is the private prayer of
Thank
most
you,
of the.
sir. You're done. Please take a seat. Remove him immediately. And remove immediately. Also, remove the person in the pink hat. Remove that one. All right. Remove the woman in the pink hat on the next to the back row as well. All right. Mr. Winston, then Jackie Johnson.
I'm Father William Winston. I'm a retired Episcopal priest. I'm here to address the ongoing jail death crisis from a spiritual, religious point of view in light of your recent erection of the Ten Commandments on the courthouse grounds. I am pro-life, but not the conservative sense of being pro-embryo or pro-fetus. I'm a pro-life advocate for actual air-breathing human beings, knowing that the dominant tone of the state of Texas's approach to postnatal human life was expressed by Governor Abbott in response to the slaughter of school children and their teachers in Uvalde when he said, it could have been worse. Even as a poor but honest, simple country priest, I know that it could have been worse is not something any parent of a dead child ever wants to hear, regardless of the age of the parent, regardless of the age of the child, and regardless of their residency in the Tarrant County Jail. Furthermore, the breathtakingly long list of deaths in Tarrant County Jail over the past 11 years is a legal and spiritual scandal and must be addressed by the Commissioner's Court if those 10 commandments are anything to go by. It could have been worse is definitely not the answer. Just ask the parents of those dead children. The 10 commandments are not limited to any particular group of people. They are the core of over 600 laws in the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy that apply to all of God's people, regardless of race, social class, or wealth. And yes, I know, the magnificent equality of the law forbids the rich as well as the poor from sleeping under bridges, stealing bread, and begging in the street. I know that most conservative Americans think that the USA is a Christian nation. Therefore, those 10 commandments cannot be taken lightly or be used as props in political theater without consequences only God imagines. Don't be hypocrites.
Following Ms. Johnson, we have Ben Darling.
All I can do is say, wow. I thought the murder of my son was enough on April 21st, 2024, but we continue to have deaths. This is a systemic problem, and it's not being addressed. That $2.4 million that'll probably be paid to Rakana Solutions for the jail needs to go to mental health. We have got to fix the mental health problem in this county. My son should have never been in that jail. He was a Marine Corps vet that suffered from schizophrenia. Yes, medication that was administered by MHMR. And yes, he was also a former patient at JPS. And the craziest thing is it didn't just happen. He was diagnosed over 10 years ago. So he's been in and out of your system that is failing. You would think that 2 indicted jailers for murder would be enough to bring this sheriff in and to realize there's a problem and a change needs to occur. But I don't know. It seems like we need to get into the voting booth because we need people who are going to represent us and fix the problem and not put Band-Aids on and stop being friends and come to some hard truths here. There are families out here that are suffering. like we've been suffering for the last 2.5 years. Every time I close my eyes and I see that unredacted video, you still fail to release to us. So now we're sitting at another level at the appellate court at the Fifth Circuit to try to get that video. That should not happen. Again, do better. But you know what? I'm not even concerned with you doing that. We're going to be at the voting booth come October.
Following Mr. Darling, we have Linda Hanratty.
Hello, I'm Benjamin Darling, Precinct 4. Let's cut to the chase. Current conditions and procedures at the Tarrant County Jail are not even close to where they should be. There isn't an acceptable amount of loss of life, and the recent number of deaths in June is truly alarming. I come here to ask what this court is actually doing to improve the state of the jail, both short and long term. It's clear things can't continue this way. I want to directly call on Judge Tim O'Hare and my precinct commissioner, Manny Ramirez. Knowing the makeup of Commissioner's Court, a change of priorities from both of y'all could make a massive difference. Do what you can to increase accountability at the jail, including an independent investigation into the recent deaths. Additionally, I'd like to say condolences to the families that have lost people to jail. Thank you.
Following Ms. Hanratty, we have Sabrina Ball.
I am speaking on change order number 6 for the Law Enforcement Training Center, which brings its cost to over $18.1 million from the original $15.7. I spoke out against the Law Enforcement Center when it was first proposed as unnecessary, given all the other training facilities in the area. Taxpayers were assured that Representative Granger would provide a grant to cover the costs, which never came to pass. Instead, we taxpayers are stuck with a redundant training center for which we will continue to pay operating costs long into the future. And of course, a building does not provide training. This court has promised taxpayers to wisely spend our money, but apparently that is only to cut costs for health care, housing, and other social services, while running up bills for law enforcement. Perhaps if we spent more funds on health care, especially mental health care, and housing, especially for the homeless, we wouldn't need to spend so much on law enforcement and the resulting jail deaths. I also, since I have more time, want to say that we should be able to speak on every item, and we should have 2 meetings a month. It is ridiculous that a county this size has 1 meeting per month. Now, if we were Loving County, that might make sense, but not Tarrant County. Please give us back our voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Ms. Ball present? Following Ms. Ball, we have Josh Lucas.
I started writing this comment about pro-life values, but after looking at your public records and campaign materials, I realized that's not the issue. You're only pro-life for the unborn. The issue is accountability. The 3 of you talk about conservative principles like protecting taxpayers, responsible government, and fiscal responsibility. So let's consider that. Holding people in a jail longer than their sentences would require for low-level offenses is not fiscally responsible. Every unnecessary day in custody costs taxpayers money. Allowing a jail so plagued by incompetence that people continue to die in your custody is not fiscally responsible. Every preventable death brings investigations, lawsuits, and multi-million-dollar settlements that taxpayers are forced to fund. Families pay with their loved ones. Families pay with their loved ones. Taxpayers pay with their wallets, and no one on this side of the court seems willing to pay with accountability. You're too busy making divisive proclamations that harm people, that harm kids, over some made-up army of trans girls. Y'all don't care about the girls in the Epstein files, but suddenly you care about girls. Fiscal, you campaign on responsible government. Yet under your watch, people die, settlements grow, and the response is always the same. Deny responsibility, write another check, and move on. Fiscal responsibility isn't a campaign slogan. It's preventing the failures that cost lives and millions of taxpayer dollars. Right now, you're failing on both counts. The most expensive thing in this county that this county owns is not the jail. It's the cost of refusing to fix it. So pull yourselves up by your own bootstraps and own it.
Following Mr. Lucas is Steven Sanchez. Or Stefan.
Hello, good morning. Today I rise to express my extreme disappointment for the latest jail deaths. 4 dead in 10 days, that's just not acceptable. Mac L. Greer died because of wounds to the head. That smells fishy since no one commits suicide by banging their head against the wall. And the compassionate release for Victor Runnels was given was too late, as he was still in handcuffs when he died. This is a pattern that has taken root. Someone gets lethally hurt in the jail, and then you call it a medical emergency, and then they die at JPS, even though they sustain their injuries in the jail. These are the cases that apparently don't need to be investigated according to our Attorney General's opinion. It smells fishy to me. On a much lighter note, this week I was pleased to see a federal judge's order that the mentally ill have 21 days to be transferred to a mental health facility. This type of deadline would be well met if the county hires one or more public defenders. I have been trying to explain this to the Commissioner's Court for years now. Please don't wait to act. You would be saving lives and money if you hire a mental health public defender. Also, a true mental health court would help alleviate some of the stress that goes with the workload of dealing with the mentally ill. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Following Mr. Sanchez is Paul David Williams.
No parent should have to bury their child. It's really disappointing to see how many deaths we've had. It's pretty striking. I also want to talk about purchasing item 21. Before approving that, there's 3 things I want to talk about. In section 2C, strictly prohibits the DA's office from using any platform, data, charts, or reports in a court, tribunal, or regulatory body without prior written approval from TRM. So basically, you need a permission slip. Not great. Second, the demand orders a multi-upfront payment for a 2-year term. You typically, in a subscription service, you do 1 year, kind of assess where you are, and then continue. It says that you have a backdated order from April, but then you're signing it in July. So I don't know if you guys were paid for that or ahead of time. Kind of shady. If you really want to protect people, especially for this kind of contract, from these kind of scams, then you need to make sure the contracts are right. Lastly, it's just, accountability is kind of a thing. It says it's provided on an as-is basis, so there's no SLA terms, service level agreements, no guaranteed uptimes of when they're going to supply you with that permission slip. I don't know. These are just, contradictions in the contract. You should look over before you just decide to sign it. Also, as a community, we need more meetings. This isn't enough time. 26 meetings out of 12 years out of the month, or 12 months out of the year would probably suffice and, help everyone, not just you.
Thank you. Following Mr. Williams is Stephen Lawrence.
I'm here to talk about the meetings that we have. Clearly, we don't have enough meetings. We have 129 agenda items, and we only have 2 minutes to talk about them. It's totally ridiculous. They're talking like it came from 2 to 1, but it started out at 4 meetings a month. It wasn't 2 at first. It was reduced to 2. Then it was reduced to 1. Now it's reduced to 2 minutes. If it went back to 4, we'd still have an average of 32 topics to speak on. And I think you would probably just allow 2 minutes. Also want to talk about the prison, the jail system. We've had 46 deaths in the last 3 years. Our love and support reaches out to the people who lost their family members. You would feel differently if it was your family members. If your name was on that list, if your family list members were on that list, you would feel quite differently than you're acting like you feel now. Other counties provide a system for people to get out of jail if they don't have the bail money. We need to follow that example. 2 years ago, 70% of prisoners were mentally ill. How many people, what percentage of patients or prisoners are mentally ill patients now? Where's the report on that? We need a report on that as soon as possible.
Following Mr. Lawrence, we have Charles Bills. Stephen Lawrence present. Are we out of the spillover? Okay. Charles Bills. Following Mr. Bills is Chris Dobson.
There was a recent death in JPS of the man that was beaten or had a head wound in the jail, and the sheriff brazenly decided to release him on his own recognizance so that he wouldn't be counted as a jail death. Now, I wonder that now that it's under scrutiny, we've caught that right away, but who knows how many other people have had the same fate, where the sheriffs or the deputies or whoever knew that they had a inmate that was about to die, and they just went ahead and released him so they wouldn't have to have an extra statistic on their hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dobson present. All right, next is Richard Thomas. Richard Thomas present. Next is Robert Van. Following Mr. Van is Merle Glasscock.
So, listening to what's been said so far by the speakers today, where does your focus maybe need to be? Virtually everybody that's spoken here today has talked about the deaths in the jail. Confinement in the Tarrant County Jail should not be a death sentence. Yet 5 men have died in the care of Tarrant County Sheriff Bill Wayburn in the past 4 months, adding to the 70-plus deaths since he first assumed the office in 2017. Victor Reynolds suffered his fatal illness in the jail, and as with a number of others, was quickly shuffled to John Peter Smith Hospital, where his family states he was handcuffed to his bed until just before he died, despite the sheriff's office claiming that he was released from custody before expiring. Moving dying or already dead inmates to the hospital seems to have become a favorite ploy of this sheriff in claiming the deaths were not, quote, jail deaths, unquote. Mr. Reynolds' death followed that of Matt Greer, James Johnson, and Carl McRae, all within the past couple of months. Besides the deaths themselves and their impact on loved ones, some of these deaths, due to malfeasance and deliberate brutality, have cost Tarrant County taxpayers literally millions of dollars and will be costing a lot more in the future. Again, confinement in the jail should not be a death sentence.
Following Ms. Glasscock is Billy Wilson.
Good afternoon. I am Merle Glasscock. I serve on the Justice Committee of Broadway Baptist Church. Why are you allowing this court to strip away your citizens' rights? Some Tarrant County residents have to be Sherlock Holmes to find out where to click to register to speak. to this court. When I first spoke at Commissioners Court, you met 4 times a month. Now it is once a month. It is blatantly obvious that you are terrified of your citizens. How frail can a public official get? Thank you.
Following Mr. Wilson is Alexander Montalvo.
Happy Bastille Day. Vive la Revolution. I wear this shirt today representing the education that I received at Ector High School, where I was taught that as an American citizen, I was to take up the fight for worldwide liberation, the liberation from oppression, the struggle for the right for self-determination, the right for the challenge wrong-headed governance, which seeks to silence my voice of the people, which limits me to 2 minutes, which means that I can't say everything I need, leading me to speak quickly. I need more time to address a petition, 4 more meetings, more time so I can address jail deaths on our beliefs in decarceration and low-level non-violent offenders and the IDD, to suggest to you that you should be fighting for your community to petition the state upon more beds so we can comply with the recent ruling in the July 9th mandating that the placement of mental health issues will occur within 21 days. How will we respond? I need more time to demand public accountability for those jail deaths and of the citizens in the jail and offer solutions. Getting cameras are good, but how about best practices? How about concerning people, dietary rituals so people don't starve in your jail? How about proper registration? How about reduction in child recidivism? How about child care? I need more time to address the hypocrisy of a commissioner's court whose stated goal is to keep Tarrant County red, that shows disdain for the proclamation acknowledging the good work of the Health Center as political or voter education of nonpartisan groups like NAACP, Justice Network, League of Women Voters, who come to you constantly petitioning for one simple thing: justice. I need more time. I need to say that it was you who divided up our continuous communities for your political gain. You are honoring the political work of a team. I need more time for briefings from the department heads like those going on with child care associates. Why is it necessary to sign a Fourth Amendment in core contract? How is cutting over $600,000 going to allow more time for people and inquire for our people to be able to get for it? Okay, I'm running out of time. So I will leave you with this. History has shown mankind's struggle for freedom. The oppressed will rise and justice will be done. And then after that.
Next, thank you, Mr. Montalvo. Following Mr. Montalvo is Cassandra Johnson.
All right, Tarrant County, let's do a time check on where we are in history. We are on the brink of making history with the upcoming election in November. But it's important for y'all to know how much time we have left. There are 97 days until early voting starts. There are 112 days until we get the results of the election and all the efforts that so many people have been doing to see new representation in our county government. It's important for folks to know that there are 3 seats on this Commissioner's Court that are on the ballot. We have Precinct 2, where Commissioner Simmons currently presides. Dr. Jarrett Williams is on the ballot for Precinct 2 because Commissioner Simmons is continuing to show the leadership we need in this county by running for Tarrant County Judge, where currently Tim sits in that seat. Now, Elisa Simmons is going to need every vote, just like Jarrett will need every vote to keep the precinct in a space where it's going to be around people working for people. Tim O'Hare won his election in 2022 against Deborah Peoples. In 2022, Tim O'Hare had 309,000 votes. Deborah Peoples had 274,000. That is a very small number we need to beat. Lastly, in Precinct 4, Manny Ramirez is running for re-election, and thankfully running against him is Nidia Cardenas, who is running for real representation for the Latino community. Where Manny wants to be super cop while people die in the jail, Nidia is actually going to care for the community. 97 days, 112 until it's over.
Thank you. Next, after Ms. Johnson, is Elizabeth Miller.
Ramirez, can you recall the suspect who repeatedly threatened to kill you using racial slurs? He was immediately arrested. I've been waiting 4 years for an outside investigation. Judge O'Hare, Traylor was in Arlington jail. I took his medication, his medical records, and begged them to let him go. And they told me he must be transported to Tarrant County Jail. Sir, Matt, when I saw you come in, your energy reminded me of Traylon. He was very intelligent, did the Lord's Prayer, the I Have a Dream speech. Hearing you speak about your children and their coaches connected me to your spirit. Because of my circumstances and my illness, I was forced to relocate. As soon as I become legally a Keller resident, I will be reaching out to you for answers. Meanwhile, my request is simple. Fight a good fight, do your own research, seek the truth, and never walk into nothing blind. Because when you spoke on that cleanness of that jail, I was recently there. I'm getting answers, and I'm a witness that neglect on mental illness is still going on. It may be ugly on that side, but since they ignored Sandra Bland, Cassandra Johnson will get answers. And this I have for you. Who's one of your, pass that to him. That's for you, man.
All right, Ms. Miller.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Miller. I am a Precinct 3 resident. Thank you all for, thank you, Judge, for your grace earlier. I had bad tremors, no telling what I was signing up for. I had wanted to come in and tell you gentlemen about a global learning conference that's here in, well, almost here. It's in Allen. It's a global conference on a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is the most common condition you've never heard of. Doctors are taught it's like 1 in 5 or 10,000 people, but it's looking more like 1 in 500. And one of your constituents stands before you with it. And there are legislators with it, staff. I've found all kinds of people. And our hospital is not thought of well in this condition. So I would love to have conversations with you all about this. I believe I have reached out to some of y'all. I will again. I wanted to talk mostly about that, but I must talk about our jail death issue. Since I saw you all last, I have attended all the conventions. I'm exhausted. And I must say, talking to candidates for county commissioners, sitting House members, sitting Senate members, some of your old colleagues, I'm sure would say hello. People are alarmed at what's going on here in Tarrant County. They're alarmed that and again, all flavors, Republicans looking me in the eye who are concerned, Judge O'Hare, that we're only meeting once a month. It's such a large populated county. How can we do good transparency? We can't. I would also, since I'm running out of time, point out that one of the gentlemen that died in our jail was arrested for marijuana. I depend on THC. I'm only before you because of THC. So that could end up being me next. And I'm asking my community to please leave me there and call the media. Do not come get me out. But that could be me dying in your jail. So I would appreciate if we could at least have that conversation.
Thank you. All right, we will now take a 5-minute recess and meet back in here at 12:17.